certainly illegal immigration is a problem.
There is no, quote, illegal immigration problem. There's a humanitarian crisis.
Welcome to another episode of Hear Both Sides. The topic today is illegal immigration. So, why are we doing this?
For me, the whole issue here is that people are so locked into their worldviews. You know, whatever their social bubbles, their Facebook feeds, and they unfriend people who just disagree with them. So, getting people to hear a very intelligent, professional perspective that they haven't heard before is just, it's very mind opening. It's going to really help people. We are pleased to have Ali Noorani. Ali is the president and CEO of the National Immigration Forum. He's also the author of There Goes the Neighborhood.
And on the other side, we have Jessica Vaughn. She's the director of policy studies at the Center for Immigration Studies.
6 questions, 2 people, 12 minutes.
So decide to listen and listen to decide.
There are currently thousands of illegal immigrants coming into the US on a daily basis. In your mind, why is this a problem and what's the solution?
The fact is that there are thousands of immigrants who are presenting at our US-Mexico border asking for asylum. The number of undocumented immigrants has dropped precipitously over the last decade, but the fact is that people are pursuing their legal right for asylum protections, and we need to establish the infrastructure, the logistics, and the processes in order to adjudicate those cases in a safe, secure, and compassionate way. There is no, quote, illegal immigration problem. There's a humanitarian crisis that can and should be addressed.
Most certainly illegal immigration is a problem. First, for the obvious reasons that it damages the integrity of our legal immigration system, and because we don't know who these people are in most cases of people arriving illegally, or even how many are coming. But on a deeper level, illegal immigration is a problem because it distorts our labor markets and denies job opportunities to Americans and legal immigrants. And it's also a problem because it is costly for taxpayers in the communities where illegal immigrants settle.
What do we do about the current 7 to 10 million undocumented illegal migrants currently residing in the US?
Well, many people suggest that there's only 2 answers to that question, either mass deportations or a mass amnesty. But in reality, there's another path to solving this problem, and that is to work to remove the incentives that are there that encourage people to stay. And we can do that by preventing illegal employment, preventing sanctuary policies or other policies that offer benefits to people here illegally. So the idea is that if people can't get a job, can't stay in their job, can't get a driver's license, can't live here as if they were here legally, then many of them, we found through our research, have made the choice to go home on their own. This is a much more realistic, effective, and humane policy to address the problem of people who've settled here illegally.
The 7 to 10 million undocumented immigrants have actually decreased in number over 12% over the last decade. We should require them to pursue legal status, pay a fine, pay their taxes, and ultimately own the American dream as United States citizens. That meets our social and economic interests as a country.
Ironically, the humanitarian approach of offering refugees a path to citizenship leads to the greater humanitarian crisis of encouraging more refugees to try to illegally come into the US. This often includes unaccompanied minors that are often victimized along the dangerous trek. How do we break this vicious cycle?
Over the course of the Trump administration, we saw a massive increase in immigration enforcement at the border. The Trump administration is very cruel that they wanted to treat migrants as cruelly as possible in order to decrease numbers. The fact is, those numbers never diminished to any significant degree. In fact, they continued to increase. We have to find a way that treats migrants compassionately and safely, but ultimately we have to take on the cartels who are selling a lie to migrants in North and Central America that the US border is open. The border is not open. We have to put in place the processes so that people can go through a path to enter the United States legally.
So what you're essentially saying is the problem isn't with the border policies. The problem doesn't start with the border policies. The problem starts with cartels taking advantage. And if it takes, which means it takes a certain American effort to go into Mexico or South American countries and stem the problem more at its source.
Exactly.
The United States has and should have one of the most generous humanitarian resettlement programs in the world, both for refugees and for people who come here seeking asylum from persecution. And we need to continue those programs. And we do have a good record for resettling those most in need of coming here. But there are many more people in the world who need protection. And not all of them can be resettled here. Not all of them want to be resettled here. So we need to balance our humanitarian admissions and resettlement programs with assistance and participation in international efforts to help people where they are, either in their home countries or in nearby countries where they've taken refuge.
In your view, is there a deeper issue driving this debate? Is it possibly economic, racial? Is it about values? Is it about partisan politics? Or is there some other driving force?
It's an economic issue because the admission of immigrants affects the size of the labor market, and it can affect fiscal issues as well. But fundamentally, every nation has the right to decide who will become members of that nation and who will be resettled there as immigrants. And that should be up to those countries to make those decisions. Can we meet the needs of our own citizens while still having a generous immigration policy?
That for sure is an area where there's a strong divide left and right. I think it's really around the topic of nationalism and what is our view of ourselves as a country and our responsibility to other countries around us.
Our nation's immigration debate is driven by culture and values. Those opposed to immigration are trying to take America back to a time of where we are homogenous society that had very little, if any, diversity. That America no longer exists. How we as a nation, from the president to Congress to mayors and city councilors, help each other understand how a changing America is best emboldens our culture and values is really the path forward.
Who would you say benefits the most and who suffers the most from illegal immigration?
People who employ illegal aliens benefit the most from this phenomenon because they are able to lower their labor costs and increase their profits as a result of a steady supply of illegal workers. The people who suffer the most, though, are those Americans and legal immigrants who are in direct competition for those opportunities, who for whatever reason haven't had a higher education, are working in jobs that are low paying, or already marginalized in our society.
The only person who's benefiting from undocumented immigration is the unscrupulous employer, because it's the unscrupulous employer who's pushing down the wages and the protections of the US citizen, the legal immigrant working next to them, but also the undocumented immigrant. So in order to address this issue, we need to level the playing field so that everybody is able to compete for the same job at the same wage and really take the benefits away from the unscrupulous or crooked employer who is willing and able to exploit the undocumented worker to the detriment of everybody else.
What is the worst case scenario if the other side's policies are taken to their logical conclusion?
The quote, other side would like to see an end to immigration as we know it in the United States, which undermines our economic interests in a very, very crucial way. In fact, by 2034, our Social Security fund will be, quote, depleted. In order to maintain our Social Security fund and help each one of us may have a sustainable retirement, we need to increase legal immigration by approximately 37%. That is one of the only ways that we as a country are going to be able to maintain our prosperity, our health, and ultimately so that every American out there can retire in a safe and secure fashion. Immigration is a big part of who we were as the United States, who we are today, and ultimately who we will be into the future.
Interesting. I've never come across that. And is that because of the low birth rate among Americans, that the population isn't increasing, the tax-paying population isn't increasing at enough of a rate?
Yeah, so we did a report called Room to Grow, and we found that decreases in fertility rates, the fact that people are just living longer, those factors are combining so that, we as a nation are kind of just running out of workers.
I feel that our republic has a way of correcting itself through elections to a great extent. We can't deny that there may be specific harms to individuals or to communities that would have been prevented by different policies. And those can be the individual worst case scenarios that occur that cannot be corrected by a general change in direction on immigration policy. And those are things like the 9/11 terrorist attack, or the case of someone who is harmed by an illegal alien criminal who was allowed to stay or who got in by evading the Border Patrol.
Next, we had Jessica and Ali watch each other's responses. Let's hear what they had to say.
So I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of a conversation that presents both sides. So I wanted to take a minute and present my response to some of Jessica's comments. Well, first and foremost, we believe that immigrants and refugees are assets to the United States, and more specifically, that they are a net benefit to the American worker and their family. And let me give you a few different examples. So in a place like Idaho, in fact, has had for years one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation, Southern Idaho in particular. Over the course of 2015 to about really COVID-19, it was a region that was having an unemployment rate of 2, if not 3%. That industry, that economy is very much based on the agricultural industry. When you talk to dairy farmers there, specifically having a large presence in Southern Idaho, dairy farmers, by and large, are reliant on an immigrant workforce, a significant percentage, well over 50% of whom are undocumented, as well as a refugee population. So my point here is that for the Idaho dairyman, who is by and large a conservative Republican, they have come to understand the value of the immigrant workforce, documented, undocumented, or refugee, to their ability to sustain not just their farm, but the entirety of their region. And that's just one example of so many across the country where conservative communities have come to really understand and see immigrants and refugees as assets to them and their families.
I'm so glad our viewers had a chance to hear both sides of this issue, and I'm glad I have the chance to respond to some of Ali's points that he made. First of all, I think we do have an illegal immigration problem, especially right now when government agencies are projecting record numbers of illegal crossers this year. And it's never legal to make an illegal crossing. And we know that many of them are not going to apply for asylum. And this is a problem because they're being allowed to settle in our country after coming illegally with no hope for legal status. That's a problem because we need to control illegal immigration. It preserves job opportunities for Americans who need those jobs. It's not going to shore up our social security system or our entitlements programs, as Ali suggested, because especially illegal migrants do not contribute enough into the system to cover what they're going to pull out later on. And it's certainly not enough to make up for other problems with our entitlements. The most important reason we need to control illegal immigration is so that we can have a robust and modern legal immigration system that's chosen by our citizens through their representatives who write our laws.
Instead of sort of like reacting to the situation, let's be in control of the situation, essentially.
Right. And yeah, the system that we choose that's going to work for Americans, it's going to work for legal immigrants, and it's going to be sustainable and supportable.
Be sure to share this episode with your friends and your enemies because it's really easy to take sides when you only know one of them.
Click below to subscribe.